Hello, good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Brian from 9.09er, and welcome to another episode of AMN Academy by AMN Healthcare. This session is entitled From Dreams to Scores, an IELTS Success Story. And today we are so delighted to feature a special guest, whom you're going to see later. Uh, it's Miss Lorna. And first of all, I would just like to greet everyone pleasant day. And if you have family or friends or coworkers who want to go abroad, fulfill their American dreams, and be able to work as a nurse in particular or healthcare professional outside the Philippines or outside your home country, particularly in the USA, then this is an episode that you might want to share with them because they're going to learn a lot of insights about the language requirement for that application process. So once again, congratulations to our special guest, Ms. Lorna. I would like to start by saying congratulations on your IELTS success. And yeah, this is really an incredible milestone. And we understand that an IELTS test or an English examination is a requirement for overseas applications, particularly in the US. And clearing this is definitely something that you would want to dream of so that you can fulfill your requirements for your overseas visa. Hello, good evening from the Philippines. It might be a different time there. Okay, right. So let's have Miss Lorna. Is she here already? Hello. Hi.
Hi, Brian. I'm already here.
Hi. Congratulations once again on your IELTS success. Of course, everyone wants to go abroad and wants to go to the US in particular. And taking an English examination is really a huge step, right? Like it's something that a lot of people are terrified with. So clearing that, I'm sure that it's like going to be smooth sailing from here on.
Yes, Brian. Every time you're told to do an English exam, uh, sometimes you wonder, am I going to make it or what will happen? But with a lot of practice and understanding the setup of the exam, that one ensures at the end it's not as hard as many people think it
Mhm.
is. Because, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Like especially IELTS. So there are a lot of rumors that IELTS is really difficult for a lot of candidates. So passing IELTS is really a huge feat, and congratulations with that. Okay, so I would just want to, for our audience right here, so that they will be inspired in your story as well. I would like to just ask a few questions about your IELTS experience, and hopefully this will inspire others as well to take their IELTS and not fear it. Like Lorna said, it's not as difficult as you think it is. You just have to make sure that you practice enough for it. So, first question, and this is a fun one. Which of the four subtests we have listening, reading, writing, and speaking did you consider to be the easiest? Easiest first.
For me, the easiest of all of them was the listening and also
Mm-hmm.
the speaking. Yeah, they were because I'd practiced. I think it's not my first time to do IELTS. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually my third time. The second time it expired, so I had to.
Oh.
Yes, and the state that I'm going to, they needed a recent IELTS
Mm.
exam because of the accreditation and all that. So
Oh
it's not the
yeah.
first time that I'm doing the IELTS, but this time I actually what stood out is that I didn't have enough time to practice because I booked fast. In our country, what normally happens when you
Mm-hmm.
listen to people, you might end up taking the wrong path. But what I did for something to motivate me, because I got the access to Nina earlier, that
Uh-huh.
was last year, and I did
Mm-hmm.
my exam in May.
Mm-hmm.
And it took time. I had other issues going on, personal, so I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't able to practice as soon as possible. So once I had booked the exams with the British Council, that one motivated me because there's no way I would allow myself to fail the exam. So that one
Yes.
motivated me. So the listening was the easiest part for me, and also the speaking.
Oh wow, that's so interesting. And yeah, sometimes putting yourself in that position when you have a little bit of pressure, like you've booked your exam already, you don't really have a choice. You can't back out. So that actually pushes you to work harder. And that's kind of interesting because a lot of people find, for example, the speaking examination to be terribly hard. But actually, I agree with you because when I also took the examination, speaking wasn't, I would say, the hardest examination. I felt during that time as well that I was just talking to a person, so it was so natural. So I guess you also had that kind of feeling when you were taking the exam, didn't you?
Yes, yes, I did. And if I was to talk about the listening, one thing I realize is that once your mind winds off, you'll end up not hearing the answer. And for me, this time I took the computer based. I actually registered. I was asking my friend, how is the computer based? Some would say, just why did you book it? You could have just done the old form. But I found the
Mm-hmm.
computer based test easier to tackle compared to the one the paper based. So
Mm-hmm.
for the listening part, so long as you are attentive, first you need to practice, because you cannot do something that you have not practiced. You need to practice. Like per day, I would do even 5 listening exams, and I
Wow.
want to be sure that I've mastered everything. And apart from that, you go into the internet and just I actually basically I use the internet to really learn what I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Nina app, it was of great benefit to me. So every
Mm-hmm.
day, what I did is that I would ensure per day I would spend
Wow.
much time. First, I'll start with the untimed one, where
Mm-hmm.
you don't have a time limit. When you see your score, but sometimes it can be really discouraging because you're not
Mm-hmm.
scoring what is expected. So I
Yeah.
started with the untimed one, and then later now I could time myself. And then when
Mm-hmm.
I was comfortable, now I ended up doing like the whole paper, the listening, the reading, the speaking, and the writing. And so long as you get the guidelines right,
Mm-hmm.
you will make it. You in my country that we have people who do coaching for IELTS. I did not find them helpful. So for me, I just practiced on my own, and I was
Mm-hmm.
able to achieve it. If I
Mm-hmm.
was to mention something, I know we are not yet there about the reading. I had some technical error after doing part one and part two of the reading. While I was doing part three, my computer shut off,
Oh
and before
no.
they could even put it on, still it was, and they tried to reset the time and all that. It
Mm-hmm.
didn't work. And they
Mm-hmm.
told me it's okay. They have noted down. I need to raise a complaint. But apparently, I'd passed the third section. I'd actually passed. So I didn't, they gave me an option that I need to repeat the whole paper, forfeit what I'd done. And since I'd scored
Uh,
what I needed, I didn't want to go through the same trouble. I might
yeah.
go through the same trouble and end up not passing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm.
Wow, that's amazing. Can you imagine? You didn't really finish your reading test, but you still got the score that you required for the reading nonetheless. That's
Imagine.
super great. Congratulations. And I actually want to point out one thing that you said a while ago, that you shouldn't always like go with what other people are saying, because at the end of the day it's you who's taking the test, right? Because a lot of people might
Yeah.
give you advice like, oh, don't take the computer delivered exam, it might not be the perfect one for you. I had a terrible time taking that test. But if you're comfortable with it, you practice for it, you prepared for it, and you feel it's really going to benefit you, what holds you back from doing so? I mean, they're not the ones taking the test, it's you at the end of the
Yes,
day.
yes. And
Yes.
if I can mention something, if your typing skills are not good, don't take the computer test.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
apparently, I found it easier compared. It was more. It was easier to the paper based. As for the writing, I was able to finish on time compared to the time I did the other one, which was the paper based. And there's something
Yeah.
you're asking about the speaking. For the speaking, be natural. If they ask you about the weather in your country,
Mm-hmm.
just talk about it like the way. You don't need to cram vocabulary to use. You just be
Mm-hmm.
natural as possible. if they ask you about vacation gone to, just you can, they told one of the, I think I've listened to some of the videos by people who are coaches IELTS, and they say if they ask of a vacation, maybe to Malaysia, I've not been to Malaysia, but talk about it as if you are there. That's what I would
Hmm.
advise the audience. Yes.
Yeah, certainly. Like, I don't feel that IELTS is really a test of like brandishing your full vocabulary and everything. It has more to do with really showing that you can communicate effectively with your examiner. It's like you're just having fun and talking to someone. Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the next question. I think you've answered a lot of the things that we're supposed to cover for the tips and strategies. I just wanted to know which subtest you found most challenging.
Reading. And that's why one thing I noticed, I hope they won't tamper with that. When I did the paper-based IELTS, the reading was so hard. Like I found it so tough, so challenging because I read all the time. And most of the time when they ask you at least three words for answering a question, like three words. But what I noticed about the computer based, it was only one word. And that one made it easy for me. And I believe that's what even made me score more. And I'd not even finished part three. I'd only done like three parts. So for the reading part, you really need to master. They talk about you don't have to read everything. Maybe if you are a fast reader, you can read everything, underline. Some others say read first the question and look for the answer in between. If that works for you, and that one you can only know when you're practicing for the exam. If reading fast make it easier for you, suits you. Don't follow what people say. People will mislead you. As for me, I think both did. I did skimming, like a quick and depending on the time. If the time was running out and I was timing myself, the first section of the reading I did like 15 minutes. Second section, I think I did for 12 minutes. Then now I
Mm,
was at the that part. But if you spend more time on part one and more time on part two, you might not have enough time in doing
yeah,
part three. Yes.
that's
But what I would
true.
advise, computer based is so easy. I wish people can go that way. I even felt I wasted my anxiety about the exam when I did the computer based. Yeah.
Yeah. I would agree with that actually. And I actually loved what you said a while ago that you have to really strategize because it's not like you're just enjoying the reading exam and having fun reading the passages. You have to make sure that you're finding the answers. And yes, one of the benefits, by the way, you guys, if you're watching, of the IELTS on computer test is in the reading examination, you can jump into any part of the examination so easily. And one of the other benefits is you can even highlight some keywords and you can also take note of certain phrases if you want to put some notes in the text. That's also possible for IELTS on computer. So sometimes you have extra anxiety because it's just not really the typical type of examination you're taking, especially if you've been accustomed to taking paper-based exams since your youth. But it's not as hard as you think it is. So I do also encourage taking IELTS on computer. All right, so now let's head on to the next question. Okay, so this is actually a little juicy. Okay. So we're done with the subtests. We're done with the strategies. I would like to ask, because there are a lot of options going to the US right now, and a lot of people are saying, oh, no, don't take this examination. Why did you choose IELTS over other English exams?
Um, for me, I've done TOEFL before, immediately after my A levels. I chose IELTS. IELTS is I'm familiar with it. It's a long time since I did any other English exam, but for IELTS, this being the third time that I've been able to do it and pass. I felt it was easy. And then once you've managed and what the examiner is looking for, you won't fail it. Because once you understand the part of the exam, what I would actually advise is just proper preparation. You don't even
Mm-hmm.
need to prepare for months. If you prepare for months, you'll end up forgetting. But IELTS over the other English exams, IELTS it's easy to understand. You just need to master the listening, being attentive. And one thing
Mm-hmm.
we were advised when you're doing the listening test, just write everything in caps. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
write a name of a country in small letter, the first letter being small, or a name of a person being small. So you'll end up failing. So what I
Mm-hmm.
would advise is that just when you do proper preparation, just understand the basic, what they need you to know. Just be attentive, like the listening, be attentive. The reading, you have to read more before you do the exam. You really have to read more. If you want to prepare for long, just read more. For me, I would basically advise people, IELTS can even take 2 weeks. It's so easy to understand it, even for a first timer. It is so easy to
Yeah.
understand it. Set up the way it flows is not something that it's out of this world. Even
Yes.
the speaking part, they ask basic questions. They'll not ask you something out of this world, like explain how the street look like. No, they'll ask you about have you gone for any, what are your daily activity, explain the apartment you live in. You see, such
Mm-hmm.
simple. Once you understand how the question are being set, it's something very manageable. So that's why I would choose, because when I was told to do the IELTS exam again, the English test, I automatically chose IELTS. First,
Yeah.
it is easier to understand what the examiner needs to know. It's something you can even practice for 2 weeks, and then you'll be able to tackle the exam. It is
Mm-hmm.
not complicated. It is a straightforward thing. Yes.
Yes. Um, Everything you said was exactly the same thoughts as I do have. Because also people will ask me, sir, why do you always take the IELTS? Because I've taken the IELTS 3 times. I always choose IELTS over other English exams, and they ask me, why do you keep on taking that examination? It's difficult. I always tell them, no, IELTS is not difficult. It's probably that you're not familiar with how it's supposed to be taken, but if you understand it, it's just like having a normal everyday conversation, listening to
Yeah.
someone talking to you, reading something that you have been given, and trying to write to a person like a university professor trying to submit your essay. So it's so relatable, like what you said a while ago. It's so easy for you to learn it. It's not out of the ordinary. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely, it's one of the advantages of taking this examination. It feels very natural learning it compared to other
Yes, and
English
just
exams.
to add to it, like the writing part, just understand the language that you need to use. Is it, if it is a graph, if it is a diagram, just when you are familiar with the words that you need to write down, and for example, the writing part one and part two, just understand what do you need to put in part one. Part one, there's no conclusion. So don't be over ambitious and put conclusion there. Part
Yeah.
two, understand, just when you check on the internet, and one thing I loved about Nina is that I was able to write during a classroom session, and the examiner was able to go through it, and the person facilitating the class was
Mm-mm.
able to give you feedback on your writing, and that one made it easier. I actually felt, because I used Nina the last minute, but I felt like I'd missed out a lot. I wish I'd done it earlier, because it was actually, I got a lot from the shortest time. So once you understand, like the writing, you understand what
Mm-mm.
is needed in the part one, what are the different topics that can be brought. Are they pie chart? Like for my exam, they were pie chart. And then understand the different question for part two, because they are not the same. How are you supposed to answer them, and once you've done that, this is something that it can be easily managed. Yes.
Certainly. Yeah, and I also love that because sometimes it's hard to actually assess yourself if you're doing things correctly. So it's also great that you get feedback every once in a while, especially if you're doing things right. And again, learning the structure, learning what the examiners are looking for, not even having to use complicated language, just using the right language for the right situation will enable you to already get a decent score in the test. So it's not as scary as you think, guys. So let's move on to the next question. This one is kind of personal, so I'd like to ask you, can you tell us more about your exam experience? So you mentioned a while ago that your computer shut down during the reading examination. Were there also some other struggles in the examination, or did you find it to be a pleasant experience overall?
Uh, when I remember that day, first I got late to the exam room. In Kenya with traffic all around, especially where I live. And
It's the same
one
here.
good thing, yeah, the British Council, they kept on calling me. And the last time they called me, I was inside the British Council building. So it was managed, but I was so anxious. And
Yeah.
when I got in, uh, was actually so anxious until when I started doing the exam. I was, the anxiety is still there. And then when I'm in the exam, especially the first part, which is the listening, I realize, this is something that is manageable.
Mm.
At the end, what gave me more anxiety was the reading, because once I was doing the exam, first I noticed that I don't need to write more than 2 words. That's something I noticed about the computer based, and I was calm until now when I got to part three, and it was a really hard. We call it a hard AC. So when I got in and I started doing the part three, and my computer shut off, I was actually getting even anxious. But when the examiner, the invigilator explained to me that it's not my fault, that I just
Mhm.
proceeded to the next section, I felt calmer and I was waiting. The first thing I was waiting for, I knew the computer based exam, they were out the next day. So I told myself, let me just wait for the exam. If they don't come out the way I want them to be, I will still redo it. So mostly the time you're doing the exam, you're so anxious, you want to finish everything. Time is there running faster than any other time, but I manage all through. So anxiety is part of it. But when you're well prepared, just take a deep breath. Yes.
Definitely, definitely. Like some people say that when you take the examination, if you're already prepared, you will not feel anxious. Oh my goodness. That doesn't happen. When you're taking a high stakes English exam, no matter how prepared you come into the test, you always feel anxious. It is unavoidable, it's inevitable. You come into the examination with a bit of anxiety. But what I loved about Lorna's experience here is she said that she took control of the anxiety and then to let the anxiety get to her. And that's also exactly what you want to do in the exam. You just have to calm yourself. I mean, anxiety will be there, mild anxiety should be there, but it shouldn't overtake you in the examination and get you into a state of panic that you're not able to perform anymore during your test. Because especially when you're prepared, you should be confident taking the test.
Yeah. And
Right.
just to mention something else, I realized what I was using to prepare, it was actually tougher, the question, than the real exam. The real exam is easier compared to what I was using, and I wasn't scoring well. So that is something to encourage any other nurse that is about to take their IELTS exam. Yes. So the real exam is the computer based is quite easy compared
Mm.
compared to the paper based or the question that we use to practice IELTS exam.
Oh yeah, I also noticed that sometimes when you're taking IELTS on computer, you wouldn't be asked to write more than 2 words. Sometimes you only have to even write 1 word. Like on paper, sometimes you have to write 3 words and or a number, so it can be a little bit longer. And that is absolutely true. I love that you mentioned that, Lorna, because a lot of people are getting frustrated when they're trying the practice exams and they're not getting high scores. Like the scores are always stuck at a certain level. It doesn't always mean that it's the end of the road for you, because who knows, maybe when you take the examination, because you've prepared so well and you've trained enough, it will be a lot easier and it will be a walk in the park during the actual test, because the actual experience is absolutely different from your preparation, sometimes when you're preparing, you're a little bit distracted. You're doing a lot of things. Your mind is wandering off. But when you're taking the exam, because hello, this is a very expensive examination, you would really put your
Mhm.
mind into it, and you would be a little bit more focused when taking it. Right.
Yes.
So, would you recommend the IELTS exam to your fellow nurses who are planning to go to the US?
Yes, I would recommend. As what I shared earlier, it is an straightforward exam. So long as you have a clue of how to handle different section, just you have at the back of your mind how the question flows, the section flows. We start with the listening, we go to the reading, and we go to the writing, then speaking at the end. So I would definitely recommend IELTS. I would actually, it's not scientifically proven, but 2 weeks is enough to prepare for IELTS exam. It's
Mhm.
enough. That one is enough. So long as you understand what really you really need to do, master the words that need to be used, read the question correctly. If they're asking for
Oh,
one word, yes, read the question. And if you're doing especially the listening part, just put your computer keyboard on caps to be on the safe side. Because
yeah.
if a name of a country is mentioned or a person and you end up putting a small letter, then you are doomed. And then when you, like the listening, when you miss a question, the answer of a particular question, don't be stuck there. Move to the
Mhm.
next one. Because by the time you realize that you're still waiting and you're still juggling in your mind what you need to write, you would miss even five more questions. Yeah.
Correct.
And you don't need to, I know the nurses will come after me. You don't need to pay anyone for you to pass your IELTS. Just practice, practice. And I'm actually willing to, even if someone can contact me on the side, I'll be willing to guide them, because you don't need to pay anyone to coach you. And with our OGP, they provide for us the Nina program. That one is effective. If you are planning to take your exam in like 6 months to come, or even 4, you can start with the Nina program. Just be diligent every day. Try to do all the section, or you can, before you move to another section, just ensure your scores are good and you have been able to tackle anything. So I would recommend IELTS over any other English exam.
Yeah, that's a very nice answer. And also, I wanted to point out and emphasize that OGP and AMN in particular provides preparation programs for you guys. You don't really have to pay extra for your preparation for your exams. They sponsor everything. So AMN actually supports all of their nurses by providing for them a robust and effective program to help them to ace their English exams, just like Lorna did. And yeah, I actually wanted to ask one last question before we end our session today. It's been a very nice conversation so far, and I know a lot of people are gaining so much insight from our interview tonight or today. Just one final advice, perhaps, for nurses who are, especially nurses who are actually giving up on their American dream because they can't seem to clear an English exam, or for those nurses who are planning to just go abroad but are a little bit, hindered by their fear of an English test.
What I would advise first, fear comes from hearing people's experience. Avoid listening to people's experience, especially the negative part. You can listen to the positive part. So once you have like blocked your mind from getting those negative feedback about IELTS, the other thing, don't book an exam today when you have not prepared and you're booking it tomorrow. So you have to take time in preparing, understand how the setup of IELTS is. If it is the reading, what are the guidelines? The speaking, what are the guidelines? Yeah. And once you have understand, you have understand, then you need to start practicing. Materials are all over. Apart from the Nina program, They are all over on the YouTube channel. Apparently, I even found TikTok quite effective. Yeah. So material are all over. Just take time until you're halfway. But what I can let me just shock you. When I was about to do the IELTS exam, I felt I'd not adequately prepared. I was actually so anxious. But once I got in and I started with the listening, and I realized that the listening bit is easier compared to what I thought, to the reading, then I was like, this thing, I have to hack it. And when you're doing, many people, you might find yourself you're an introvert or you don't like talking much. So when you're doing
Mhm.
the speaking test, I would advise people not to keep quiet. Just talk. Just talk. Be as natural as possible. Talk about an experience like yesterday, even if it was 10 years ago. So, yeah, even if it was 10 years ago. I don't know if I've exhausted the answer, but I would recommend nurses who want to go abroad, they do the IELTS exam. IELTS exam is straightforward. Once you've mastered what you need to say or what you need to write down, it is as straightforward. Don't be anxious. You will hack it. Practice, 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 and you'll be able to hack it.
Wow, what a very strong message. And what stuck out from that response in particular is that your fear is coming from external sources. Like, what people are telling you, like, oh, it's so difficult, or you can't pass it, it's an impossible task. And if you let that consume you, as Lorna said, it's going to really make you feel very sad, demotivated, and anxious about the examination, fearful of the test. But so I would definitely advise the same thing. Don't listen to everyone, especially if you hear a lot of negative rumors about an examination, because it's you who's taking the test, not them. So focus on
Mhm.
yourself. And most importantly, something that I've learned through the entire conversation is you really have to work hard. I mean, that might
Yes.
sound cliche, but diligence really pays. Like, if you work hard, you
Mhm.
practice every time, you're definitely going to go places. You can't just
Yeah.
expect that you're going to pass the examination without the proper knowledge and also proper practice. Taking the examination is really a hard task, but if you're prepared, then it is not impossible. So thank you so much, Lauren. I really wanted to share with everyone that I truly and genuinely enjoyed this conversation, and that there are so many insights that I know our audience will benefit from. And I learned a lot also in this conversation. We should actually talk more, Lorna. Right. Anyway, thank you so much, Miss Lorna, for sharing your inspiring journey with us today, and of course, also motivating our fellow nurses and our audience to pursue their English exams. And once again, if you need guidance for your English test, Niner is here, AMN Academy is here. All of the resources are at your disposal. What you need to do is to work hard, train, practice, and clear your examinations. Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Lorna. And once again, congratulations. Hopefully, your application will be smooth sailing from here on. And good luck on your journey to the USA.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Sir Brian, for this opportunity. Thank you, OGP, for giving me an opportunity to even participate in this live show. Yeah, and I believe just a parting shot for all the nurses. If you're not under OGP, maybe others will bump into this video. Once they have registered with the British Council, they also provide an app that you can be able to practice IELTS and all that. And don't fear the IELTS exam. IELTS exam is something that is so straightforward and you'll be able to hack it. It's not as hard as people say. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank